find out right now. He may be out of his mind, but someday you will find the sanity's left us all blind and dragged us all behind. A moment seen through those eyes, crystal blue skies. They say that all beauty must die. I say it just move on. If
So that was Avenged Sevenfold Save Me. They allow that to remain. And I just wanted to say, you got the Stop the Asian Hate thing coming up. I was talking about that last year. I've been talking about that for a long time. Hell, I noticed that stuff was going on a long time ago. Like it's like the invisible enemy, the enemy we can't name, but we can name. There's like different patterns for everything. And I noticed day one of the coronavirus, I posted, I was like, man, how come all these accounts are online, like, attacking China, Chinese people? And I think there's too many of them. There's no way, like, Fox News issued something at 8 a.m. and told people China's to blame, attack China. And everyone all of a sudden got that. I assumed there was some bots online helping that. I posted on that. I was like, wow, there's like a lot of people just in line with hate China now. And I was like, wow, this is going to be really bad. And then look at where we're at now. Now they're advertising, Stop the Asian Hate campaign. Because people, look at what it's been leading to, right? It's led up to people supposedly getting assaulted and all that. And you got some black people joining in there on the Hate the Asian crew. And that's one of the times where I started drawing the line and said it's time, I speak out. I had, people always talk about cats. The Asian eat bats and cats. And I've always said, this is just like underlying propaganda. They're softening things up just in case there's a war. And they want people to hate one another. They're doing their normal divide and conquer. And it's just more of that, and you nip that in the bud before it can flourish into a greater campaign of hate. But, I mean, what bigger campaign of hate can you get than the COVID? Blaming that for that. And if you're intelligent enough, like, the media might be lying. And if you're intelligent enough, you might think someone else, like the New World Order, would be behind COVID. But why would the New World Order media tell you that, right? Why would they allow that? I don't know specifically if anyone got banned for saying New World Order or it was behind COVID, but behind questioning it, Zuckerberg and YouTube are banning people. So here we are again, with another one of these social media campaigns. And I love Asian people. They're great people. And all people are beautiful, so I like them. And we should, come together, and we shouldn't blame, Asians for COVID. We shouldn't be hateful towards them because the media said it came from there, right? Because the media said that. I've fallen into those traps before. And, sometimes on purpose, just so I could learn where the trap led, so I could then talk about it. And that's an important thing. We don't fall into these campaigns of hate. The Japanese were rounded up in World War II, right? And when COVID started, I was worried where that was going to lead because of this past history of internment camps, and then, even the anti-New World Order people telling us about the internment camps. And I might be one of the only people ever to document and bring to you a camp that was set up at the Portland Proud Boys event where they expected Antifa to show, and Antifa never showed. For some reason, they generally show. In Portland, they're generally there like every day anyways. Supposedly they just didn't want to walk the extra mile or something from where they were. Who knows? And So I went to that event to talk to everyone, but no one knew, like, there's a FEMA camp there, right? Like, when this stuff actually happens, like, I've seen this stuff happen. And every time someone else is like, ooh, is this a FEMA camp? They're showing, like, empty porta potties that could be, like, delivered somewhere and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, this is a Walmart shutdown, and everyone was asking why the Walmart was there. Why the Walmart there was shut down. And I didn't really have to ask that question, because the second someone, like, asked that question, I was like, oh, that's what's going on, isn't it? It's a FEMA camp. And so that was, like, right where the Proud Boys were. And it's really the only FEMA camp I've seen. But, you know, it makes me think of that stuff, how that's been done in the past to the Japanese, especially during times of war. And who knows what the situation's really like on the surface in this world, because who knows who's being honest, and which world leader is smart enough to know that someone might be lying to them, and which world leaders can act accordingly, and which ones aren't under complete blackmail and pretty much have to do anything, or their whole family might die, right? Or even worse, maybe their whole nation dies if they make the incorrect decision. But yeah, I've been saying that for a long time, and especially, like, the day COVID started, I was making more posts about it. I generally don't talk about it unless people bring it up, because it's one of those underlying things. It's there, and no one talks about it, and no one talks about it one way or the other. But I've always known it was there, because the media's always trying to plant something about a large percentage of everything out there. Is this bad? Is this good? You know, however you want to look at it. Generally, no one's ever, like, you know, saying, hey, look, China did something nice. Generally, it's just like attack against China. You know, they're evil. They're preparing to take over the world. But they don't actually even say that. I mean, they do kind of say they're going to take over the world, but they don't say anything. You know, else they put in this low-key hate propaganda behind it. They don't put anything behind it, like, this is how you can protect yourself. You know, invest in this company and that company. And it's not like they hire anyone in the government who understands technology, which is where they've got us by the balls if we're worried about this nation. That's a real in-depth conversation there, and we won't get into it, but I mean, even the people talking about shipping jobs back to America, they don't understand technology, they don't understand what's there. And because the bigger argument is why aren't we making our own technology? Because can we trust technology from someone else? It's like, if you care at all, care about that. You know, that's almost more important than caring about who has their fingers on the nuke button. We know Putin has a nuke button. We know Obama, Bush, and Trump had a nuke button, right? We know Israel's probably got a nuke button. We know probably the 7 leaders of the world have nuke buttons, right? But we don't know. We don't have these other tools they have, and we don't know what they're doing with them. And if we're worried about something, we should be worried about that, not worried about China taking jobs or China hacking our technology. I mean, I guess that's part of the equation, is when they talk about that. But the real, I mean, the answer to the equation is, like, directly tied into that part of the equation. China's taking the jobs. China's hacking the electronics. Well, what's the answer? You make your own electronics if you're worried about something like that. You compete with Intel. You compete with AMD. You compete with Google. You compete with Apple. You compete with any other company who decide to go out there. You compete with them. And, I mean, it's a matter of, like, state security, kind of, to want to have your own devices. But none of these people in these positions, and I don't think any of their advisors care. Did they even have a technology advisor? I don't know. I wouldn't doubt that answer would be no. Who is the U.S. President's technology advisor? Let's ask the Googster. President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. If you can believe Google, well, you'll believe anything. But Let's believe Google. Believe in Google for a minute. The President Council of Advisors on Science and Technology is a council chartered in each administration with the broad mandate to advise the President of the United States on science and technology. Agency Executive Kelvin Drogemeyer, Chair. Parenting Organization, Office of Science and Technology Policy. So these people should be deciding what we do about China rather than ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, Google, Facebook deciding that we should just hate China because they are supposedly putting backdoors into all our electronics. And I've got my own plans for smartphones and computers. And if I don't make Office, I should just build a company that competes with Google. Although this stuff takes time, you got to choose what you do in this world. People are telling me, hey, you need money, chase a dream, build some anti-gravity technology, make future biotech suits, and harness free energy and all this. And it's like, well, like the world's existing too. At the same time, there's someone who's got to do all that. And I might be smart enough to do this other stuff, but I don't see anyone else really stepping up to the ruler of the world, the presidency throne. I mean, look this dude Biden. Like, hopefully he doesn't make any mistakes. Hopefully he doesn't fall asleep at the wheel, right? And I mean that literally and figuratively, because falling asleep at the wheel sucks, dude. This car has suffered some damage from that. And we're all lucky we're alive, I guess, after that day. And the car's lucky it's alive too, because it would suck if I lived on the streets instead of having a car. But this is the answer, to stop the Asian hate. Well, we work on the problems, what it was causing. You got the media causing divisions, and then you have the narratives they're putting out. They're talking about technology. They're talking about, they hate the Arabs. And it's like, when they talk about that, that's a joke. It's like, really, like, I've seen them, the government issued some sort of statement that anti-Muslim hatred by the Chinese is actually racist. It's actually covert anti-Arab propaganda. Oh, isn't that the kettle calling the pot black, though? All of a sudden Muslim never meant Arab, and now it does, because China said it. China's involved. So, if we hate the Arabs, then if we hate the Muslims, if we hate the Arabs and call them Muslims, it's not us. We're just, we're trying to help the good Arabs out. From the rule of the oppressive Arabs, right? Isn't everyone? And, China is trying to help the good Chinese out from oppressive Muslims. The good atheist Chinese are out from the oppressive Muslims, who some of them might happen to have darker skin or not. But I think, in general, when I seen that too, it's like, well, you have come so low, and they push that so long that they feel safe now saying that. When I've told you that for a long time, it's just code word for hate. It doesn't matter, like Muslim, Arab, they can't say the word Arab, so they're not going to. They didn't used to call black people with Kwanzaa worshippers, right? When back then they could just call them whatever they want. And then it came along, you couldn't say anything about them. So they stopped saying that. And then the Asian thing, they've always been low-key with the propaganda. It's always low-key. They don't want to talk too much about China because they don't want to actually make China upset. But, I don't think the Chinese people are idiots. Something tells me, I look at their cities and their technology and their development, and I think they're smart enough to see this. And I also think at the same time that if I'm smart enough to see it, the people around me can see it too. So this is just like one of these things that people probably know, and they just go with the flow to get along. And you can't keep living in a world like that, first of all. And second of all, we're not going to be able to colonize space if we have, a black person and an Asian and a white person up in space beating each other up because they want to, see who wins, champion of the moon, and see which race conquers the moon first. Like, what are alien civilizations going to think when there's a bunch of people roughing each other up in their own colonies and stuff? They're just going to laugh, right? If they're advanced enough to get here, they're advanced enough to just sit back and laugh about it. But we can't have all this stuff, right? It's very conducive. I've always thought, like, this bad attitude America puts out is an image, even though it's like covert, so it's kind of like not a bad attitude. I've always felt that's like a bad problem with the attitude. I mean, even if you don't like them, they're on the edge of technology, and they're a global superpower. And I can make all sorts of arguments for things about, kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall, and how actually that can benefit fallen kingdoms even. So, I can look at things and extract the positive from them if I choose to, or if I feel like it. Generally not a choice if I choose not to. But I think that all this stuff works excellent if we focus on the roots here and where it's coming from. Obviously, some of them are like, yeah, we're getting beat up, we're getting called the COVID people and stuff like that. It's like, well, I mean, what do you expect? I've talked to a lot of Asian people, especially more so the last year. And ever since the COVID thing, I've been a little worried about them. And I told a couple of them, I asked a little more than I usually do because of this. I asked them, what do you guys think's going on? Because I know in the history, people have been put in the intern camps, and now they're ramping up the hate over the COVID. And I don't want to see that type of stuff happen. And I want to make sure that everyone remains free and can do what they want and not get blamed. Now, maybe there is some problem. We come through with some serious stuff, but how are we even going to know what's real and what's not just because the media or the government says it? You can't trust any of that stuff. It's like coming out here to see the West Coast. When I went through California, I drove around looking at stuff, and it was, it's got its ran down areas for sure. But I didn't believe any of that just because people on the East Coast, and it's not just people on the East Coast, it's like the East Coast media has this air of superiority about it. And generally, apparently like the whole nation thinks the West Coast, not even just the East Coast. Like if you look at the map, I had a map. I'm not sure if I actually posted that one to this account or to any account, but I mean, the Facebook account on this device, so it'd be a different one for each one. But it showed, which state hates which state the most. Where I'm from, of course, we hate Michigan because we're a really good football team, and we love to stomp Michigan. It's literally, that's all it is. We hate Michigan because we're a really good football team, and who knows how good they are. They're not us, and that's all that matters. If you're not us, you're not the best. But they just love to hate this Michigan team. My friends from Michigan, they tell me they don't even know what really, like, the Buckeyes. They're like, what's that? And they're like, Michigan and Michigan State are the rivals in Michigan. It's not Michigan versus OSU. And I was like, oh, interesting. So like the hate's just like because they want to, right? They want to celebrate shit, taking a dump all over this team, and because they'll take a dump all over every team. So it doesn't matter which team you pick out of the list there. We're just, if we're talking bad about them, we're just taking a second dump on them because we're going to beat them in the game too. And then we're going to take a dump on them after that. If they're Michigan. If no one else, we might not take any time carrying. We're just like, you're not Michigan. Good game. But the Asian thing, it's kind of the same way. It's just like, it's just another competing superpower, so we got to hate on them and stuff. And I don't hate the Asians, I think their culture is beautiful. I would already be there right now. It's the closest continent to where I am right now, but I don't speak the language. So it's the closest continent I really want to go to, besides a couple others maybe, right? It's definitely the first thing in my mind because I like their culture. I've grown up immersed in Ninja Turtles and video games. And what else? I mean, I do martial arts, right? Martial arts, I mean, we grew up in that no matter who we are, whether it's wrestling or whatever. Wrestling might not have came from them, but every other, I mean, today's is not even wrestling. Today it's MMA, which includes a ton of Asian martial arts. And even the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff, where did that come from? That came from some monks, temple monks. I can only imagine where temple monks might have came from at one point. Although some of them might come from India or the Middle East. But that doesn't mean that didn't come from China, because that's kind of like their culture. But, I think it's great. Anime is another thing. People love anime now. I was watching anime I guess Voltron was kind of, but not really. I was watching other anime probably by 95. And I thought that was awesome. And back then, no one else really watched it. But now it's so cool. People are cosplaying and dressing up like the anime, and it's like a trendy in thing to do. And it looks kind of awesome, Whenever a girl or a guy dresses up, it looks beautiful. So especially when you see an awesome girl, and they always make the girls look awesome in those. Of course, it's a cartoon. Everything's all perfect, but. It's weird, they make them Americanized looking, but they make them small like Asians. Little key things there you notice. Other people might not want to say out loud, right? But I think all that stuff's great, and I'd be there right now. So, stop the hate against Asians. Like I said that a long time ago. What's this COVID thing? What is this really? Is this just Agenda 21? Is this, just God casting some spells on the earth playing games? I mean, COVID or Agenda 21, it looks more like Agenda 21 than COVID to me, at the very least, right? COVID is one thing, and this other stuff, it looks like Agenda 21. I think it's much deeper than that. There's a lot of things to it. And some of those stuff might actually involve China and involve making some hate campaign against China just in case things go wrong in the process. There's all sorts of things that are going on right now. And, Agenda 21, I've never read the whole thing, so I can't tell you if it is pretty much every single word in Agenda 21 is going on right now. But those of you in the truther community, you understand at least a general synopsis of Agenda 21. And that's what I understand of it, too. So, everything I'm seeing, cashless society, all this stuff, you've seen that come into play. But it's more than just them taking cash away, and they're not taking away because of infections and stuff. And there's certain things I probably shouldn't talk of, because there's probably certain things that you don't talk of if you're expecting to be in the government. Like Ron Paul talked to the Federal Reserve and the bank reserves being empty. It's interesting that people get to know that might be a possibility. But it would also be very negative for the economy to come out and be like, oh, all that gold's missing. If America was like, we really don't have all that gold. Oh, we really don't have all those troops. It's different than just thinking you're right by looking at that situation. When the president comes out and says it gets a stamp of approval that even Ron Paul and stuff can't put on anything. So there's certain things you should talk